Hey friends, and welcome back to A Simple Truth. So the temple is done, which is nice. We're going to continue looking on with Solomon's reign after the temple. Now that it's done, what does Solomon do in the meantime? So if you remember last time, we were taking a look at a couple different psalms. We saw psalms of peace, assurance, psalms about God's creation. We're going to take another look at, or I should say a second account of God appearing once again to Solomon. We're also going to see that relationship with King Hiram. If you remember, King Hiram was the one that was supplying Solomon with all the cedar for the temple. And that was chapters ago. I'll say that. That was a couple chapters ago. I don't remember what day. So we saw that. So we're going to see, now that that work is complete, what happens? What's that relationship look like? And then lastly, we're going to take a look at Solomon's other achievements. So we'll see exactly what that is. We're going to see that in 1 Kings 9 and 2 Chronicles 8. So once again, 1 Kings 9 and 2 Chronicles 8. So we will start with 1 Kings 9. And it came to pass, when Solomon had finished building the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all Solomon's desire which he wanted to do, that the Lord appeared to Solomon the second time, as he had appeared to him at Gibeon. And the Lord said to him, I have heard your prayer and your supplication that you have made before me. I have consecrated this house which you have built to put my name there forever, and my eyes and my heart will be there perpetually. Now, if you walk before me, as your father David walked, in integrity of heart and in uprightness, to do according to all that I have commanded you, and if you keep my statutes and my judgments, then I will establish the throne of your kingdom over Israel forever, as I promised David your father, saying, you shall not fail to have a man on your throne of Israel. But if you or your sons at all turn from following me, and do not keep my commandments and my statutes, which I have set before you, but go and serve other gods and worship them, then I will cut off Israel from the land which I have given them, and this house which I have consecrated for my name I will cast out of my sight. Israel will be a proverb and a byword among all peoples. And as for this house which is exalted, anyone who passes by it will be astonished, and will hiss and say, why has the Lord done thus to this land and to this house? Then they will answer, because they forsook the Lord their God, who brought their fathers out of the land of Egypt, and have embraced other gods, and worshipped them, and served them. Therefore the Lord has brought all this calamity on them. Now it happened at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the two houses, and the house of the Lord, and the king's house, Hiram, the king of Tyre, had supplied Solomon with cedar and cypress and gold, as much as he desired. That King Solomon then gave Hiram 20 cities in the land of Galilee. Then Hiram went from Tyre to see the cities which Solomon had given him, but they did not please him. So he said, what kind of cities are these which you have given me, my brother? And he called the land of Kabul, as they are to this day. Then Hiram sent the king 120 talents of gold. And this is the reason for the labor force which King Solomon raised, to build the house of the Lord, his own house, the Millo, the wall of Jerusalem, Hazor, Megiddo, and Gezer. Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had gone up and taken Gezer, and burned it with fire, and had killed the Canaanites who dwelt in the city, and had given it as a dowry to his daughter, Solomon's wife. And Solomon built Gezer, Lower Beth-horon, Belath, and Tadmor in the wilderness in the land of Judah. All the storage cities that Solomon had, cities for his chariots and cities for his cavalry, and whatever Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. And all the people who were left of the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites, who were not of the children of Israel, that is, their descendants, whom were left in the land after them, whom the children of Israel had not been able to destroy completely, from those Solomon raised forced labor, as it is to this day. But of the children of Israel, Solomon made no forced laborers, because they were men of war, and his servants, his officers, his captains, commanders of his chariots and cavalry. Others were chiefs of the officials, who were over Solomon's work, 550 who ruled over the people who did his work. But Pharaoh's daughter came up from the city of David to her house, which Solomon had built for her. Then he built the Millo. Now, 3 times a year, Solomon offered burnt offerings and peace offerings on the altar, which he had built for the Lord. And he burned incense with them on the altar that was before the Lord. So he finished the temple. King Solomon also built a fleet of ships at Ezrion Geber, which is near Elath, on the shore of the Red Sea in the land of Edom. Then Hiram sent his servants with the fleet, seamen who knew the sea, to work with the servants of Solomon. And they went to Ophir and acquired 420 talents of gold from there and brought it to King Solomon. And 2 Chronicles 8. It came to pass at the end of 20 years, when Solomon had built the house of the Lord and his own house, that the cities of Hiram had built, that the cities which Hiram had given to Solomon built them, and he settled the children of Israel there. And Solomon went to Hamath-Zeboah and seized it. He also built Tadmor in the wilderness, and all the storage cities which he built in Hamath. He built Upper Beth-horon and Lower Beth-horon, fortified cities with walls, gates, and bars. Also Baalath, and all the storage cities that Solomon had, and all the chariot cities, and the cities of the cavalry, and all that Solomon desired to build in Jerusalem, in Lebanon, and in all the land of his dominion. All the people who were left of the Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivitites, and Jebusites who were not of Israel, that is, their descendants who were left in the land after them, whom the children of Israel did not destroy, from these Solomon raised forced labor, as it is to this day. But Solomon did not make the children of Israel servants for his work. Some were men of war, captains of his officers, captains of his chariots and his cavalry, and others were chiefs of the officials of King Solomon, 250 who ruled over the people. Now Solomon brought the daughter of Pharaoh up from the city of David to the house he had built for her, for he said, My wife shall not dwell in the house of David, king of Israel, because the places to which the ark of the Lord has come are holy. Then Solomon offered burnt offerings to the Lord on the altar of the Lord, which he had built before the vestibule, according to the daily rate, according to the commandment of Moses, for the Sabbath, the new moons, and the 3 appointed yearly feasts, the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the Feast of Weeks, and the Feast of Tabernacles. And according to the order of David, his father, he appointed the divisions of the priests for their service, the Levites for their duties, to praise and serve before the priests, as the duty of each day required, and the gatekeepers by their divisions at each gate. For so David, the man of God, had commanded. They did not depart from the commandment of the king to the priests and Levites concerning any matter, or concerning the treasuries. Now all the work of Solomon was well ordered, from the day of its foundation of the house of the Lord until it was finished. So the house of the Lord was completed. Then Solomon went to Ezrion Geber and Elath, on the seacoast in the land of Edom. And Hiram sent him ships by the hand of the servants, and servants who knew the sea. They went from the servants of Solomon to Ophir, and acquired 450 talents of gold from there, and brought it to King Solomon. So as reading this, I was immediately thinking about, and I had to write this down because I wasn't exactly sure where it was, 1 Kings 3:11. So I'm going to hop back there. 1 Kings 3:11. Specifically, this is the chapter where Solomon was asking for wisdom. And instead of asking for gold or riches or power over his enemies, he asks for wisdom. And in chapter 11, God responds. Then God said to him, Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked long life for yourself, nor have asked riches for yourself, nor have asked the life of your enemies, but have asked for justice for yourself, understanding to discern justice, chapter 12, behold, I have done according to your words. See, I have given you a wise and understanding heart, so that there has not been anyone like you before you, nor shall there be any after you. In verse 13, and I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there shall not be anyone like you among the kings all your days. And that right there is the fulfilled promise. And so it's pretty cool at the end of completion, where Solomon builds his home, he builds all these fortified cities, and most importantly, he finishes that temple. This is God's fulfilled promise right here, just saying, hey, you asked for wisdom, so I'm going to give you more in massive abundance. And that's exactly what happens. And again, the story is going to continue on from there, and Israel doesn't stay in God's good graces, just as we don't always stay in God's good graces. But we continue to see promises fulfilled, which is awesome. Awesome. So anyway, that's what I took from today. Yeah, have a great rest of your day, friends. Thanks so much for joining. See you later.